Good morning, Kay Newton here, and welcome to Menopause, Bodyburden, and the Dirty Dozen. Is your muffin top really caused by diet? Before we begin, firstly, I just want to state that the information contained in this presentation is from my own research and my own experiences. I'm not a medical practitioner or a scientist, which means it is really your responsibility to check the information you're about to hear and see, and seek professional guidance before taking any personal action. Secondly, don't worry about taking notes during this presentation. I'm very, very happy to send you the PDF with the slides. All you have to do is contact me on the email provided on the last slide. And thirdly, if you do want to write down your light bulb moments, do so, and any questions that arise as we're going along, and I'll be happy to answer these. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Today, we're going to cover these areas, just basically look at the story so far, where we've got to where we are in our history, who I am, who's Kay, and the dictionary words that we're going to be looking at, just to give you some insights into maybe new terminology, what the Dirty Dozen are, where you can find them and what you can do about them, and then the way forward. So let's begin really by looking at the story so far. And the problem with today's world is that we've heard so many stories. What do you really believe? You know, at one point we were told that smoking was a fabulous way to de-stress. And then we were told that margarine is better than butter. Buying fat-free products was healthier than actual full-fat products. That sugar was bad for us and fat was good for us. And then we've now so confused about whether we should keto or not keto. Very, very few people are actually talking about toxins. Those are the chemicals in our everyday personal hygiene and household and cleaning products, as well as our makeup, that could actually be causing us harm. So who am I? A little bit about me. I grew up in Yorkshire to a working class family. And in my 20s, I sailed from the UK to Mallorca. And I tell everybody that I never swam back. I set up my own cleaning company for the rich and famous. And my team and I found the best way to clean efficiently and effectively. And part of that exploration included trying out all sorts of chemicals available on the shelf. I became asthmatic, and then I learned to clean organically. And I even wrote a book about it. It's an easy read. It's a read with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, which leaves you plenty of time to actually go and do the work. In April 2021, I joined eXpedition, which is an all-female crew. It's a project looking into the effects of plastic upon the ocean and on our body burden. And this experience really brought home to me how dire our own health is, and that of the planet. So let's look at some of these words that you may be hearing now. There's nothing worse than hearing new words and not having a clue what they mean. So let's just decipher them a little bit, some new vocab to help you. Body burden really just refers to the accumulation of synthetic chemicals that are stored in the body at a detectable level. And it's a general term that really covers a lot of complexity. So body burden can be both naturally occurring and man-made. It may remain present in your body for many years after you've been removed from the exposure. The level of your personal body burden depends on many, many factors, such as your age, your gender, your disease status, your nutritional habits, and your genetic makeup. It depends upon the dose at the time between exposures, the duration of repeated exposures, and interaction with other chemicals. You may inhale them, you may swallow them, you may find them in contaminated food or water, and in some cases you can absorb them through the skin. Some chemicals lodge in our bodies for only a short while and then we can excrete them, but continuous exposure to such chemicals can create a persistent body burden. Arsenic, for example, is mostly excreted within 72 hours. providing the exposure doesn't happen within that time frame again. Other chemicals, however, are not easily excreted and can remain for years in certain areas of our body, for example, in our fat tissue, semen, muscle, bone, brain tissue, blood, and in our organs. Chlorinated pesticides such as DDT can remain in our body for up to 50 years. And whether chemicals are quickly passing through or stored in our bodies, bodyburden testing can reveal to us the actual individual's unique chemical load and can highlight the kinds of chemicals that we're exposed to in our everyday lives. So obesogens is another word you may have heard. And obesogens are chemicals that directly or indirectly increase obesity through the disruption of the metabolic, hormonal, or developmental processes. Examples are BPAs and phthalates, which are chemicals both used in the manufacture of plastic. And as we know, plastic's very dominant in our world at the minute. Endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that can interfere with the endocrine system. And the endocrine system is the collection of glands that produces hormones that regulate our metabolism, our growth and development, the tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, and mood, among many other things. And these disruptors can cause all sorts of things, from cancers, tumours, to birth defects and other development disorders. An example of an endocrine disruptor would be, could be for you, the contraceptive pill or even just soya milk. So it's well worth thinking about that. And POPs. POPs are not something you drink, no. POPs are persistent organic pollutants, and they're toxic chemicals that adversely affect human health and the environment around the world. And POPs can be transported by wind and water, and they can be generated in another country but affect people and wildlife in another part of the world. They often are persistent for a long time, periods of time in the environment, and they can accumulate and pass from one species to the next through the food chain. Just carrying on a little bit more, so we've got some abbreviations you may like to know. SAT stands for subcutaneous adipose tissue, and it's found all around the body. So if you think about the fat you may find, it's natural, it's normal. It's said if you sit too much, you become fat. So think of sat and sit. VAT is visceral adipose tissue, and this you found mainly around the organs, and it's the most dangerous type of fat. In the UK, VAT stands for value added tax. So you can think of VAT as visceral adipose tissue as being the extra money you pay for sitting too long. Both types of fat of adipose tissue are known as body fat. And body fat distribution changes also with our age, and it changes definitely with our menopausal status. So SAT areas are higher in premenopausal women, whereas SAT and VAT increases in postmenopausal women, especially around the abdominal area. And this is due to the changes in the hormonal levels of the body. Abdominal fat also secretes large amounts of toxic substances, and these substances can increase your blood pressure by tightening your blood vessels, causing inflammation throughout the body and making it difficult for your body to handle blood glucose, which can then lead to diabetes. We are told that excess body fat can be caused by eating too much and the wrong things, by not exercising enough or sleeping properly. Yet we very rarely think about toxicity, and more studies are beginning to link the two, and that's quite important. So let's just have a look at a few examples of how chemicals can affect the body. When I joined eXpedition, I became very much more aware of my knowledge around toxic chemicals. And during one of their first voyages, the crew at that time had their blood tested for their chemical levels. The ages of the crew ranged from people in their 20s up to their 60s. And I found it very fascinating to see that with regards, for example, to fluorinated compounds, the younger members have the highest amount. And this is possibly due to the fact that these chemicals are relatively new in our world. One member also had high amounts of PBDE, or flame retardants, which are actually found in electronic equipment. And she'd been recently working as a volunteer at a recycling plant, and this may explain the reason why. Scientific organisations such as the Environmental Working Group, the EWG, estimate that most of us have stores of hundreds of contaminants within our bodies. And epigenetics, which is a study of how our behaviours and environments can cause changes to our genes, are beginning to show that this could possibly be the case. Babies are already being born carrying a toxic load of as many as 265 different chemicals in their bodies. Breast milk is rife with environmental pollutants. And women who are pregnant may pass these pollutants on to the developing fetus through the placenta, or maybe she passes them later through her own milk. The Integrative Medicine Journal cites lots of studies where researchers are finding that early menopause typically begins 2 to 4 years earlier in women whose bodies have high levels of certain chemicals. And these chemicals are found in general household items, personal care products, plastics, and in the environment. The Integrative Medical Journal also suggests that the growing diabetes epidemic is not just due to the increase in sugar intake. Studies cited in the journal point that the diabetes epidemic started 4 decades ago. That the diabetic epidemic started 4 decades after sugar became a daily part of our diet. And studies are just beginning to prove that people with low POPs levels are less likely to develop diabetes, even if they're overweight. Whereas there is a prevalence of pre-diabetes, and it increases with the increased circulation of the levels of POPs. So here's a list of symptoms, and as you're reading it, just taking note some things that may be relevant to you. We are complex human beings, and the symptoms that you're reading on this slide may be caused by numerous issues, and it may not just be chemical toxicity. But have you thought of them in relation to chemical toxicity? Toxicity can be in your food, in your household and personal products, and in the environment. And so if you have any of these symptoms, it's well worth thinking about changing your exposure to chemicals. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you the names of the dirty dozen. So here we have the dirty dozen. And you'll see lots of names you probably haven't even recognized before. PEG compounds, which is the top right-hand column, in brackets ETH. You may not see PEG compounds written down, but anything that's got the letters ETH written in it, it's a PEG compound. So in 2015, Amber Cooper, who was an assistant professor of obstetrics and gynecology in the Washington University School of Medicine, she studied a national representative sample of 1,442 menopausal women who had neither taken estrogen nor had their ovaries removed by surgery. And she tested the blood and urine of these people to sample and identify the levels of over 111 chemicals that were believed to interfere with natural hormone production. And the study actually identified 12 chemicals that have a strong connection with diminishing ovarian function and with early menopause. And the crazy thing is that, unlike E numbers, which are on the back of foods, you probably don't recognize any of these names, and you probably can't even say them. I know I can't, and yet they're in everyday use. So next time you go shopping, take a look at the labeling And my rule of thumb, although it's not completely accurate, just like all E numbers are not bad, is if you can't say it, don't pay for it. For example, I recently pulled out a bottle of my shampoo that I've been using for many years. And I only pulled it out because I wanted to write to the producers of the shampoo and ask them if they would think about doing a refill system that didn't include a plastic bottle. It's locally made, so there's no transport costs, and it's very environmentally friendly in that way. It has numerous eco labels on it, and it feels safe the first examination. But when I put on 2 pairs of glasses so I could actually read the label, I saw that the ingredients may not be actually as chemically as sound as I thought they would be. One name, for example, is cocamine DEA, and it sounds like it's derived from coconut, and it partially is. Yet it's got dithanolamine added to it as well. And the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC even, lists coconut oil, dithanolamine condensate, or cocamine DEA, as one of their group 2 carcinogenics, which means they've identified this chemical as a possible carcinogenic to humans. And yet cocamine DEA is FDA approved. So on this slide, you'll probably recognize these and feel more familiar in relation to chemicals. These are the areas where you're going to find the dirty dozen. There's lots of different chemicals used in the processes of making plastic itself. And because plastic is becoming very prevalent in our world today, it's becoming more and more in use. Plastic's not a natural product. It's all completely human-made. It does not degrade and remains in our environment forever. Only 9% of plastic worldwide is ever recycled, and the rest either ends up being burnt and releasing poison into the atmosphere, or it ends up in landfill or in the oceans. So not only is this killing us, it's killing the planet. So the best form of action is to avoid it altogether. On the next section, you'll see pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, and these also are found everywhere. So to really think about where you buy your food from and look for organic produce if you can. Eat more vegetables and less meat. Avoid over-farmed foodstuffs such as wheat and soy or palm oil. And not only are they over-treated with chemicals, but they're really not good for human consumption, and that the cultivation of them is also destroying the planet. When you're looking at your personal products, really check those labelings. Moistures are at the top of this list for a reason. They are actually full of chemicals, and when we get to menopause, we often have dry skin, and therefore we tend to use more moisturiser than we would before. Just get used to looking for natural ingredients, and look for them in both your cleaning and your personal products. I've got a feeling that women are affected more by chemicals than because of the amount of beauty products that we do use, although this is changing a little bit. But yet, so far, I've not found any research to show this. If you know of anything, please let me know. Cleaning products, like most things, are a huge commercial scam that you don't really need to get involved in buying. All you need to clean effectively is white vinegar, castile soap, bicarb of soda, and perhaps hydrogen peroxide. And I don't use hydrogen peroxide. And do really think about when you buy your food, about the packaging that all those goods are coming in. And instead of focusing on recycling, focus on refusing. Avoiding is the simplest key to a healthier lifestyle. So what else can you do? Firstly, it's important to use this presentation as a stepping stone to find out more and do your own research. The more you know about the subject, the more informed your decisions will be. Look for small changes that you can do. Think about simple actions. For example, take your shoes off at the door of your home to avoid bringing chemicals into it. Invest maybe in a HEPA filter system for your bedrooms if you think the air quality could be an issue. Go natural, no more makeup and no more cosmetics. And get tested, test your hair, your gut, your bloods, and find out exactly where you are right now. You can also think about eating more curcumin or vitamin E and vitamin C, or quercetin, which you'll find in kale and leaves and seeds and grains and red onions, because they will actually help your body to eliminate toxins. Have your water tested or buy a water filter, or do both. Get rid of all your non-stick pans, throw away those air fresheners. And you can also do things like lobby local or industry or governments and or even global organizations and ask for change. You can also do a refuse audit. Just go and open your bin and see exactly what you are using and consuming. Then you'll have no excuses. If you start slowly, when you come to the end of something, replace it with something different. It's easy that way. And you can also buy my book. I'll put the link to the website, and that's coming up shortly. So definitely think holistically. We are complex beings, and toxicity is only part of the story. So you could do a table of life audit, which will allow you to see where you are and what room you've got for improvements in all aspects of your life. Perhaps you do need to take up increase your intake of organic food, drink cleaner water, or even just clean your teeth regularly. Perhaps you need to remove negative people, find a new circle of like-minded friends who can motivate you to change. Perhaps you need to find out more information or someone who really knows and can guide you to change. If you do the audit, it will allow you to see where you need to focus, adapt and take action. And you can then relate this to the bigger picture. Always ask yourself, what am I missing? And if you go to my website, you can download this PDF, The Table of Life, for free, and it will start you on your way. So talking about the big picture, and I think this is really important to look at toxicity in relation to your next 10 years, because this will help you with your daily purpose and your motivation. As we age, most people want to make sure that next stage will be healthy as possible. No one wants to be in constant pain. Nobody wants to be bedridden and reliant on others. Health is a destination, and your health span can be your lifespan. 70 to 80% of chronic illnesses are lifestyle related, and they can deal with and can be dealt with change. Ask yourself, what is it you want your health for? Is it for playing with your grandchildren, having no guilt over eating chocolate, feeling full of energy and being self-sufficient until the day you die? When you ask these deep questions, it gives you more of an in-depth meaning to life. And the more you ask, the more comfy and confident you become in your own skin. And that's a fabulous place to be at midlife. So wow, we're coming to the end of the slides already to the presentation. There's been such a whirlwind of information here. I'd like to say thank you for you to staying with me and being here and enjoying this time with me. As you probably really realize, toxicity is a huge and complex subject. And because we're all unique and individual, it affects us in different ways. Now you've got some ideas in relation to the meanings of body burden, obesogens, endocrine disruptors, POPs, SATs and VATs. And you've got some ideas of the symptoms that toxicity can cause, where you can find these chemicals, and more importantly, what you can do. It may not feel as overwhelming, but if it does feel a little bit overwhelming, because it's such a huge topic to cover in such a short time, please don't hesitate to reach out and seek some help and guidance. You don't have to do this on your own. So what's the best way forward? Well, the best way forward is always just to take one step at a time. Just choose one action that you can take right now, today, and do it in a different way. And then focus on that one thing. Focus on it until you turn it into a habit. And then when it becomes a habit, you can then move on and focus on something else. You can see here on this slide my website address. And there you will find the access to the free Table of Life PDF. You will also see the book page where you can download and buy the How to Clean Organically book. And you can take a look around the site as well, because there's other information, tips and tricks available that you may find interesting. But most of all, feel free to email me with your thoughts and questions and requests for help. And if you found this presentation of interest and would like to see more, you can support my work in two ways. Firstly, you can pass on this link to anyone else you will feel will benefit from listening. And as we spread the word, we can change the world. And that's really important. So I'm going to say it again. As we spread the word, we can change the world. And secondly, you can donate by using my PayPal address, which you can see here on the slide. I love it when we make an exchange of energy, because this certainly makes the world a better place. That's all I have really in this presentation for you. So I just want to say thank you from my heart to yours. And I do hope that your body burden and your midlife muffin top, I've got some thoughts and ideas on how you can deal with them in a different way. So really do take note of possible chemicals in your life in the future and how you can do this in a different way. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.